Thank you all so much for coming out here tonight. I think we've heard, and we will hear more, a surprising degree of unanimity on what our big problems are. The affordability crisis, the crime, et cetera, et cetera. But when you go to vote on November 6th, the question is, which one of us, the 13 of us running for council, which one of us is really going to be able to work effectively on those issues? And I want to talk a little bit about my record. First, Chevron's not very popular, taxes aren't very popular. I'm going to start out with that. I negotiated, along with Mayor Butt, the 2000 in Jail Myrick, with support from Nat Bates, the 2014 Chevron Modernization Agreement. Chevron was polling -4-1 at that point. I lost my seat after that election. But look at the agreement. The agreement was the best agreement on a modernization project of that type in the history of the United States. I don't care if you're talking about the pollution controls, the safety, getting these old decrepit tankers off the hillsides, the $90 million in community benefits, which we got, $35 million for the Richmond Scholarship Program, a ton of desperately needed blue-collar jobs, reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. So we went in and we negotiated that, and having had experience starting a successful small business, as did Mayor Butt, we stayed away from the areas which could have sent Chevron walking away from the deal. If they walk away from the deal, no money, no jobs, no safety improvements, no greenhouse gas improvements, and a bunch of decrepit 50-year-old tanks sitting there on the hillside and possibly exploding. I want to talk about another controversial area, taxes. Who here likes taxes? Anybody want to raise their hand? Okay, I don't like taxes, you probably don't like taxes. But like going to the dentist, sometimes they're necessary. In the early 2000s, we had a crisis. We had police going out the door. We had libraries closed. We had fire stations closed. I worked with the community, worked with my colleagues, and I spearheaded 2 taxes. They raised about $13 million a year. What they had in common was they were primarily paid for by big business. One of them, Chevron, paid about 56%. Heavy industry paid 65%. That was utility tax. They're paid for largely by big businesses, by people who have a lot of money, and by people from out of town. We got those passed. We brought back the police. We brought back the libraries. We reopened the fire stations. And we had money for other programs, one of which, by the way, was a great program which I've been advocating for, which was the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And something caused a huge drop in Richmond's crime rate. We don't know exactly what it is, but I think that the Office of Neighborhood Safety was probably one of those factors. It's been duplicated, it's been exported to Oakland, and I think it's worked. It's getting people who are not uniformed officers, some of whom have been involved in the same lifestyle as the people who are out at risk, out in the corner, tapping them on the shoulder, saying, hey, option, we've got a better option for you. We have the chance to move forward in Richmond. We need leadership which is not ideological, which doesn't see the world in black and white. My parents were both straight A, Ivy League science students. I do not see the world in black and white. I see it in a number of tones of gray. It's a complex world, and I don't go up to the council and make speeches where I put out 5-second sound bites and stuff that sounds good. I talk about nuanced solutions. Let me give you an example. We're all going to talk tonight about the need to keep businesses. Richmond had a minimum wage law, and the businesses that I work closely with came to me and said, hey Jim, this is a problem. Galaxy Desserts in particular, 200-person job expansion. They said, if we get hit with this full minimum wage, we probably can't do it. I introduced an amendment that said that manufacturers, the people who actually can pick up their bags and move out of town, or cancel planned expansions, that the manufacturers would still have an increase in the minimum wage, but wouldn't be as large as the one we passed. That amendment was accepted. None of those manufacturers left. The full weight of the increase went on to the people who frankly couldn't leave and who have more money than they know what to do with. We're talking about the McDonald's, the Costco's, the Walmarts. They're not going anywhere. So using my experience being in business, having a business that employs about 25 people, I was able to understand the economics of that and come up with that solution. We have public financing in Richmond today. That's because I brought it there. As a member of California Common Cause, as the vice chair, I became deeply convinced that's probably the best money that we spend in our city budget. Unfortunately, after I left the council, it got cut in half. I think that was a bad decision. I understand the financial pressures, but I think it's important that you elect people and that you have a fair playing field and that you don't wind up with candidates who get elected merely because there is a ton of money going one way or the other. We have people today who are going through the Brad Moody underpass. A lot of people are part of that. But as a council member, when that idea came up, I called together an ad hoc committee. We got together the people from the neighborhood, the businesses, the railroads, and we worked through the different issues, a lot of divergence of opinion, and we came up with a plan we agreed on, which was underpass, not overpass. The city staff, with a unified community behind us, then went out, shopped around for the money, got the money. We have the underpass now. It's not only a convenience issue, and I used to live in Marina Bay for about 12 years. It's not only a convenience issue, it can be a life or death issue. If we have emergency vehicles that are stopped for the trains for 10 minutes, people could have a heart attack and die and whatever. It's an example of how I feel my job as a council member is not just to sit up there and look at it on Tuesday night, vote yes, vote no, but it's to go out in the community, engage people, move forward with issues that matter. Nuts and bolts issues. We're not talking about the space-based mind control weapon kind of thing. We're not talking about the eminent domain plan, which was put forward to try to save underwater people who had underwater mortgages. I oppose both of those very strongly. The eminent domain plan, by the way, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to the city budget. Does anybody know how many homes were saved by the eminent domain plan? Anybody know? Care to guess? Okay, zero, none. Complete waste of money, silliness. And once again, it's the difference between somebody...
Time's up.
Thank you very much for your...